I think they have some good players.
Oh, you don't know them?
No, they drafted the kid from. First of all, they brought.
No, I thought. No,
because you don't know the name.
No, I actually.
You don't know the name.
Correct. I thought you were coming with the name.
Welcome back to the Snapback Bets channel. Every single week, we are giving you our 5 best bets in the chances that we are incredible against the spread. We're going to win $1 million. That's our goal here. I'm Jack. I kind of know stuff about sports betting. We've got the intern. He's the fish of the group. We've got Tim. He's our sharp. He's our expert. And we've got Uppy. He's your uncle. He's your D-Gen. And he is the only one who won his bet last week, Cardinals plus 6.5. Tim, walk us through if we had a good process in week 1, although we did not have a good record.
Yeah, 1-4. You can't run from it, but the results are what they are. This is betting. There's a scoreboard there. It is what it is. So we'll just run down the 5 picks and just, I don't know, maybe as we go through this, somebody could get exiled from picking if it gets ugly enough. But just to run down, Jack, you had Green Bay on that Friday night game. You guys were there, you and Casey. I don't think it was in any way a punishable offense. That was kind of a game that felt like it could go either way. Is what it is. I told you I would have liked to have 3, but it happens. Casey, you had Miami minus 3.5. Half point screws us there. Your Tua love, they come back, but it isn't enough to cover it. But Uppy saves the day, and we have the half point go in our favor with that Cardinals, kick return, which really allowed us to get back into the money there. I had Tennessee plus 4, plus 4.5. Doesn't matter because they choked the thing away. Really, really bad. One of the worst beats you'll ever see. I'm so numb to bad beats at this point. I don't pull my hair out. I don't get upset because I've just seen this stuff happen in the NFL so many times. But to just put a little context to it, the Titans led 17-0, then lost 24-17. Dogs of 4 points to lead by 17 at any point in a game. We're 66-1-1 against the spread since 2019. That's courtesy of Evan Abrams. So, yeah, I felt like a lot was on our side there, but we got to move on. We can't sulk. Again, I don't really care. I'm immune to it at this point. The real bad one was Carolina. I was the one leading the charge on our consensus pick to take Carolina plus the points. And this is a new phenomenon in the NFL. The line goes your way by the time kickoff happens, and you still get absolutely plastered anyway. Jack, you were right. I think I should be maybe voted off the consensus picking island for a little bit because that's about as bad as it gets.
I hold myself responsible because I did create the X, and I didn't want to use it in week 1. But all I asked of you guys is, please, we are not betting Bryce Young and the Panthers again. At least give it a bunch of weeks. They need to be 10-point underdogs. There are numbers that I can get back in on, but 4 points, the guy stinks. He'll be out of the league in a year. Tough week 1. And one real quick thing on the recap. I think that sometimes we will want to evaluate process over results, right? Like Uppy, just because he covered doesn't necessarily mean the process was good. I liked his process. I would say Casey's process, even though he only lost by a half point, it's not like Miami really deserved to cover that game, but process was fine. So there's winning bets, there's winning processes, and then there's Tim, where he's 0-1 on the scoreboard. But if you had the Bears minus 4.5, I don't want to be betting with you going forward because you are going to lose the majority. You lucked out.
Yeah, I also think my record is unfortunately 0-1, half point. Whether I deserved it or not is another question, but I am 2-0 for picks that I went on the record for
okay,
not
you're being the
liking.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go. Casey's
so
lean
just making
board.
sure
His lean board.
that is there for when I go on the record again this week of picks I don't like. Consensus group. Again, I was rooting for all our picks because I'm a team guy. Love the team.
I think we play it with Uppy. He's the only one that
Agreed.
won. I think he should rip it first. Who's your best bet for week number 2?
All right, let's dive right back in. And I think this is an exercise in not just giving up on a team because it's the most disgusting beat you'll ever see. So I'm going right back to them. Titans plus 3.5 at home against the Jets. Tim mentioned that historical bad beat. I think you have to just throw that out. I think this is still a pretty solid team. We saw them hold the Bears to 0 offensive touchdowns, under 150 total yards, and this is a Bears team that everyone's been super high on. Obviously, rookie making his first start, that's a tough spot. But I will say they have a ton of weapons, arguably, maybe more weapons than the Jets have currently. And I just think this is a terrible travel spot for the Jets. Short week, they're coming back from the West Coast, and then they have to go right back on the road to Tennessee. Not the greatest home field in the NFL by any means, but that's a pretty hyped up Nashville crowd, I will say. And since 1990, teams to blow a 10-point lead in week 1, they're 29-17 straight up and 28-17-1 against the spread in week 2. So this is just a classic bounce back spot with a terrible travel spot for a pretty mediocre, overrated Jets team.
Listen, Uppy, I think that trend, I think it's from Evan Abrams, is probably going to lead a lot of the week 2 discussion, because it's kind of the epitome of not overreacting to one game. And I would feel strongly about that. However, the books have graded this Tennessee loss like they won. The look ahead line was Jets -4. It's now Jets -3.5. So it is pretty. It's not like Tennessee got downgraded significantly for losing that game, or in blowing that lead. I think this is kind of that catch-22, in that you think your eyes. Oh, I might have a beat on them because I know that this is a bit of a fraudulent result, and I think it's pretty baked in, and they're one step ahead.
This was my play, and once you made the late pivot, I had to pivot, but I love it. I think it's a great start. I think people want to underreact to what they saw from the Jets in week 1 in a world where there were a ton of overreactions. I think there was a big underreaction on the Jets. I think the way people reacted to Kirk Cousins' lack of mobility, I think they should be having similar reasons towards Aaron Rodgers and why they're worried about Kirk in Atlanta. They should have similar worries about Rodgers and the Jets. And I think Tennessee's defense showed that they're really good. They added a lot of pieces in the offseason. And I think if they can get Rodgers a little uncomfortable, I think we're going to see a similar result. I like the Titans to win straight up, along with all the things you mentioned about away, coming back from the West Coast short week.
But are you able to separate your Jets hatred from your analysis?
I think my analysis there didn't mention the fact that I almost get more happiness from Monday night than I would have if we won on Thursday. With the Ravens.
He seemed pretty partial, and I will say maybe his Jets hatred is coming with a ton of validity, and he's just completely ahead of the curve, and this is going to be a terrible team.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great.
Let me do my favorite thing, devil's advocate here. Will Levis, maybe not the guy, and the Bears defense is going to be elite. Obviously, the Jets pass defense is super elite as well. How about the fact that they couldn't cover a game when the other team didn't score a touchdown? I think that is just as bad as saying, it's a positive. So I want to consider that as well. I think low scoring game. I think both teams struggle offensively. 3.5. We talked about this last week. It's not a total of 50. 3.5 is a lot of points in a margin like that. I think the Jets are going to bounce back, but I could see them only winning by 3. So I'm not using my X there.
Yeah, I think that
I'm higher on the Jets than most are. Remember, the Jets just went on the road and played the best team in football, right? Like, it's not like they played some scrubs.
But they were also uncompetitive.
Debatably. I thought they did some really good things. They just got ball control.
If you take away...
And no one's mentioned the Titans running game. I think if you had come out and said, I think that Tajay and Pollard are going to control the game just like San Francisco did, I'm more sold. It's a little concerning that no one has mentioned that. Well, I think that's the X factor.
I didn't get there yet, but the fact that both teams are going to look to run the ball a ton, like you said, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, bleeding clock. The way San Fran ran against this weak Jets defense, everyone's just assuming that they're going to bounce back, whereas I think they have a good 1-2 punch with Pollard and Tajay, and I love being 1-0 on the board.
Yeah, and Reddick
right
is
off
not
the rip.
Reddick is not coming through that door, and they got absolutely no rush.
Yeah.
Purdy just picked him apart. I know the concerns with Will Levis, but when you're getting zero pressure, I think anyone can look above average, and that's all we need. Just don't throw the worst pick six in the history of the sport,
and they cover.
We'll be okay.
Surrender Cobra.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Tim?
Yeah, the total on this game's 40.5. So, you guys are obviously maybe did some bit of research and saying that it's going to be a low scoring game. And I think you bring up a good point about the rushing attack. Also, this still, again, is a Jets team that we think is pretty fragile. Or at least we said if things went poorly early, that they could be a bit combustible. You're talking about Salah already on the hot seat potentially if this team starts 0-2. You have, an odd thing with Sauce coming out of the game, right? San Francisco. Like it still doesn't seem buttoned up. And you're going to go lay points on the road on a short week with a team that we still haven't seen it from yet. Uppy, I think you and Casey, I give you credit. You kind of talked me into it a little bit. I won't play it myself, but I think I'm going to give it a pass for the contest.
I was going to say, if Tim was on it again with the 3.5, it's the sharp side. But you know what? Will Levis is maybe not great. He ain't Bryce Young, so let's keep it moving. Tim, let's get a sharp pick on the board.
Yeah, let's go the Los Angeles Rams +1 at the Arizona Cardinals. You don't like?
I don't know. I'm actually excited to hear what you have to say.
Me too, because this feels square based off of no actual data, just like a Rams team that looked really good in Detroit playing a Cardinals team at underdog. So yeah, I'm curious as well.
So the story here is Arizona's now a favorite. They opened as a 2.5-point dog, or at least the look ahead the week before. So why did this move? We have to be able to explain why a line moved like this. And it's because of the injuries on the Rams offensive line. They had 4 of their 6 offensive linemen were injured by halftime against Detroit. And so to me, I say, well, if that happened in that game, the Rams still had a second half comeback to tie the game and force overtime, in which they lost the coin toss and never got the ball. So I think there's a little bit of a faulty Lions cover on that aspect. And I think, sorry, Uppy, there's a bit of a faulty Cardinals cover as well. They get a 96-yard kick return down 11 in the middle of the fourth quarter. So those 2 adjustments to me don't get me through 2 to 1 to 1.5 to 1 to 0 all the way out the other side. They also, Puka Nacua is out as well. That's going to be a headliner. Well, he only played 25 snaps in that game. And you give McVay a full week of being able to put the pieces back together on this offensive line. And I feel a little bit better about it. They did do it on the fly during the second half of that Detroit game. Yes, Matt Stafford was pressured a ton, but again, they still led a comeback to force overtime. Kyler Murray, he's also not great against the Rams. He's 1-8 straight up and 1-7-1 against the spread, dating back to 2021 against the Rams. And an interesting phenomenon here, teams to open up as dogs and then close as favorites since 2018, 76 and 106 against the spread. That, of course, from Evan Abrams. So I just think this is way too much of an adjustment for me. I know there's cluster injuries. Everybody knows that, but this line over adjusted to that.
Here's why I'm with you, and I'm not vetoing why I can see it win, but why I'm not in love with it. I want you to get 3 points here. I want you to get a spread that is meaningful. You're essentially saying the Rams are going to win the game straight up.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, it's too early to know what this Cardinals team is. So I think we're flipping a coin. Now, you could argue, well, at least we're getting 1.5 points here. McVay owns the Cardinals. But remember, McVay owns Kingsbury, right?
Correct.
McVay owns bad coaches. I like Gannon, but McVay is better than Gannon, right? He's one of the best in the league. So I get why the lean is there. O-line is a lot. It's a lot. And kind of what Casey said, there's so many uncertainties here. It just would have been a stay away here. I do think the attraction to overreaction, which is the stat you referenced, is a simple play. And I think we'll land on some more teams that we're not going to overreact to like the market has.
So tell me this, though. Arizona has to be able to make this depleted offensive line pay. Well, how about last week? The Cardinals were 31st in pressure, according to PFF. Matchups styles make fights, and I don't think
Yes.
that you have to pick another team to exploit what Los Angeles has going on in the offensive line.
I'm aligned with you there.
Yeah, I think I watched the 1 o'clock, so I'm going to fraud myself a bit. Coming off a 10-hour flight from Brazil, I fell asleep during the Rams-Lions game. So my question is, did the Rams get any interior pressure on Goff? Because the way I see that stat, the 1-8 Kyler, is Aaron Donald disrupting through the middle, I think on shorter quarterbacks, I think causes a lot of issues. And I saw it with the Bills game is when they got interior pressure through the center, through the guards, Kyler struggled a lot more than I guess when they're coming off the edge. So a question, I guess, do we see the Rams causing similar fits through their interior linemen?
So the Rams did not get much pressure, but the Lions also have one of the best offensive lines in football. So
Probably the best, yeah.
yeah,
And the Cardinals did just put a guy on IR from the O-line this morning.
yeah, their right
so-
tackle is going to be out for this game. To me, I know you're talking about a number, Jack, that you want. Then why didn't you veto Casey laying 3.5? Like that is, if we're gonna play the bad number game,
No. It's not that it's a bad number. I just think it's a true coin flip game, and that's the difference. Uppy, I think the Jets are going to win that game, right? But they could win and cover. There's not really a world where the Cardinals win, but they don't cover the spread. That's all I was saying. You're essentially 1.5 points is meaningless here. You're betting on them to win the game, which is fine. I just don't know if I would make that bet.
I would argue in a coin flip game, you do want the better coach, significantly better
For sure.
quarterback.
For sure.
So I would definitely lean that way. This one just felt weird to me, especially when it flipped, but Tim thoroughly explained that. I just initially looked at the Cardinals and I'm thinking, at home, this is basically a pick. So they're saying these teams are fairly similar on neutral. And I'm higher on the Cardinals. So it certainly
I guess
made me
I'm
a little
sad.
weird.
I'm sad the Cardinals didn't win because I think we could have gotten a 3 here. If they beat Buffalo on the road, if Kyler hits Marvin Harrison Jr., I actually think they could be laying at least 2.5. But I think because of that, they're 1.5.
I think no shot they were going to give us 3.
Sure.
I think no shot that Sean McVay and Matt Stafford were going to get 3 against a Cardinals team that, again, this is a public darling team. People like betting on Kyler Murray. They like Maserati Marv. They are a team that when
but they don't after week 1. Tim, think about it. People only watch Red Zone. They were leading early, but then second half they get smacked. If Kyler hits MHJ, the rookie, for a touchdown, Kyler doesn't make the comment in the media today. He scored a touchdown. He had 60 yards. They won, come back on the road. You don't think – I agree 3 would be tough, but they're at least sitting 2.5.
I think people are saying, he just missed him or didn't see him. I think, now there's going to be a game plan to make sure Maserati Marv does touch the ball, right? It goes yin and yang. I just do think that the Cardinals were a popular, like, pesky, trendy kind of dog pick in the preseason.
Okay. All right, let's go to the fish.
All right, I am going with, this is my pivot pick, but I love it nonetheless. I am going with the Chiefs -5 at home against Cincinnati. This is I don't know if I can categorize this pick. My reasoning being, again, short week. I mean, not a short week, but a long week for the Chiefs after playing Thursday night. Didn't have to travel anywhere. From what I saw, came out of that Ravens game relatively healthy. And more from what I saw is Jack and I were at the Lions-Chiefs game week 1 against the Lions 2 years ago. They looked awful. Chris Jones wasn't playing. Kelsey was hurt. Super Bowl hangover, whatever it may be. The Chiefs beat a fantastic team in the Ravens and looked really good doing so. And then you flip to the Bengals. I mean, I think I might have been first on the scene here. Burrow's wrist is just not okay. There was a clip that I saw where it was against cover 4 quarters and he chose to check it down instead of trusting his arm to throw it deep. I don't think he trusts his wrist fully yet. I think maybe it gets better with time and he trusts it later in the season, sure. But where we are week 2, T. Higgins is not playing. Chase is making comments again that he's not happy. He's still not paid. And I think Mahomes is going to absolutely shred this Bengals defense, tear them apart. Now, Burrow has been good against the Chiefs historically, but again, I just do not think this is the same Bengals team. And I think fragile wise, how you talk about the Jets, after they get shellacked in Kansas City, Jamar, holdout, I might as well get my money while my hamstring's fucked up. I think there could be some real turmoil in Cincinnati. They got to walk over a full-ass highway to get to their practice field.
His Cincy hatred is coming out. Thoughts on the pick, Uppy and Tim?
Well, I admittedly was looking hard at the Bengals, and then I see that video circulating where he can barely pick up a Gatorade bottle. Mahomes as a favorite, we don't love. I'm sure Tim has the exact numbers, and he's gonna shred you here in a second. I don't love the pick, but I certainly wouldn't take the Bengals.
Mahomes as a favorite, 38, 42, and 2 against the spread as a favorite of more than a field goal.
I don't hate that. That's not a Derek Carr on opening day with Dennis Allen stat.
Here's the reason. Here's the reason is that the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL at playing with a lead. And that makes for less variance of them against the spread, right? So they're up 6, they take the air out of the ball, they run it well. Now they've found out, a way to successfully run the ball. Mahomes will get a scramble or two, and they just take the air out of the ball. So I think Casey's pick here, it's going to have a lot to do, because again, this is all for a contest. It's going to have a lot to do with what the contest line gives us, because this spread has gone from 6 down to, I've even saw 4.5. Like this thing has fluctuated like crazy. So to me, if it's 6 you like the Chiefs, right? So to me, I feel way better about 5. Don't love 6. Don't love 6.5.
Fair enough. I mean, without a veto, I'm in on any number outside of if it gets to a full touchdown. I think this Chiefs team is potentially 2 touchdowns better than the Bengals. I might take alt spread. I might take the Bengals not to score. Undecided.
All right,
but
time
I
out,
love the current spread.
Obviously you don't think they're 2 touchdowns better, but an important note here: you do think the variance, and there is value to alt spread, because Tim gave you a shrug. Obviously, on a neutral, you wouldn't rate them 14 points better. Yeah. But I do see a world where your storyline plays out and it's a shellacking, and they put up 31 points. Burrow's wrist is a problem, and they score 13. So I just want to give pause to that. I'm actually with you.
Just real quick, I also think people were scoffing at this loss, and you saw what Joe Mixon did with the Texans against a solid Colts defense. Like, I'm also in the boat that running backs don't matter, but like this run game, the way they were able to be a little versatile and not just being Joe Burrow, air it out all the time, like Mixon giving you 4 yards a pop, was very valuable for them. And with Chase Brown, Zach Moss, you're just not getting that anymore. And it puts a lot of pressure on a quarterback who doesn't have a Boyd or a Higgins, a new tight end, and an upset Jamar. Jamar played well. He's an amazing player. But I think I think people are underestimating how much turnover the Bengals have with the team that is going to take the field on week 2.
The Bengals are a good team.
I'm not convinced.
Are they, though?
Right.
I don't know. And I just want to stick up for the Bengals fans out there, because I posted the same video that we all saw circulate. That video came from a Twitter account of a physical therapist who is using the video to actually showcase that his wrist is okay. So I just want to be clear on that. While we saw him struggling to hold a water bottle, he was actually stressing the point of his throws were not impacted. His velocity is not down. All the metrics are fine. So I do have to get that out there for them. But
I thought the most damning part of the video is just how the whole time he's like this.
Yes.
Yeah, he's stretching it out. Yeah. No, I think it could be fine by the end of the year. I think it's not in a good spot today.
Here's the best thing about I came in ready to bury you on this, honestly, because I wanted you to say Cincinnati just loses to what was potentially going to be the worst team in football. they suck. We know they suck. You're making a week 1 assumption, but none of that is really into your handicap here. You just really believe that Joe Burrow's wrist is not 100%, and you worry about the wide receivers as well. And that is like, that's a take that, like, so far you're 1 for 1 on that take since the summer, right? You really do believe that. So if that's your edge, like, go die on that hill, like, by all means.
By the way, you've also got a team that, they've called it Burrowhead before. It's a team that beat them most recently, but there's a little something there. I think Patrick Mahomes had the highest EPA by a quarterback in week 1. So, by the way, he's still pretty good at the sport of football. And that Bengals defense is not very good. When we sat down with Marlon, he was like, these dudes were moving. And I think that we saw Worthy score 2 touchdowns, but it wasn't, Marlon even said it wasn't the touchdowns that killed them. It's Worthy's speed opening up everything. I think this is the purest form of an Andy Reid offense with a conductor who's the best player in the world. They might score 30, 40 points on them, and they have an elite defense in Spags.
Rashee Rice, second-year Rashee Rice looks like a serious problem, and for me, the Ravens are the 3rd or 4th best team in the NFL, and the Chiefs beat them without using Travis Kelce.
I will say, if you want one piece of devil's advocate here, Travis Kelce's girlfriend came out, endorsed Kamala Harris. You've got Brittany Mahomes, a big Trumper. Maybe their connection there is just not flying, but that's for...
They went to the U.S. Open together. They were vibing. I like where the vibes are at.
That's for the political pundits to figure out.
We actually do have this, which does matter. When Taylor Swift's in the building, the Chiefs are 9-4-1 against the spread.
Love it. She's gonna. There's no reason for her not to be there.
You think? You think she's there?
Hundo P there. She has nothing. Her tour's over.
Okay. All right. Yeah. If we'll
Casey
lock it
knows
in.
that
We'll
Taylor Swift's schedule's open. Casey knows Taylor Swift's schedule's open. Yeah.
Tim, you're the one aren't you missing a college football game for Taylor Swift?
Yeah, I'm a Swiftie. Like.
Okay. All right. We're all Swifties this weekend. We're all Swifties.
That was mad
weekend.
cute. I'm a Swiftie.
Depends on the number, right? I'm a Swiftie depending on the number. If it's 6 or 6.5 in the contest, I don't really want to play it.
All right, my pick.
Jack's going to the moon for this pick.
What's at the moon?
I don't know. You picked the first game in Brazil. You'll pick the first game on Pluto. Who the fuck knows?
I am in between 2 picks. I think we're going to agree on my second pick, which is the Giants. I'm just tossing that out there that I'm not going with that one. I'm riding the Ravens -9.5. All 3 big numbers did not cover in week 1. Arizona did cover. Denver ended up covering. And then obviously New England won straight up. Alex, or Uppy as we call him, he is doing pattern recognition. The problem is his pattern is very simple. He's simply looking back to last year, week 2, in the same exact spot. And here's where these are different circumstances. And what I'm referring to is Gardner Minshew came in as a big road underdog for the Colts, beat Baltimore straight up. The difference this time around is you've got, number one, an awful head coach in Pierce. I saw one game from him, awful. He made the worst 4th down decision, not once, but twice. So he's a loser from that regard. And I
he's
think he'll
7-2-1 against the spread in his career.
Yeah, that's how you cover games. That's how you don't win games.
Don't care. That's number one. Ravens this time around are coming off a loss, not a sleep spot. They won the home opener last year. Maybe they cool off a little bit. Also, if you watched the game last year, they were a disaster from the start. The Ravens cannot afford to fall to 0-2 this season. Now, here's the question mark. Here's my big question mark. Ravens O-line looked disastrous against the Chiefs, and they are going to face a defensive front that is probably better. So could Max Crosby and his line mates absolutely wreck the game? 100%. I'm going to favor the side of the Ravens that, since Lamar Jackson has been in the NFL, has been the best rushing attack from day one. The Chargers absolutely dominated the Raiders on the ground. They just smoked them the entire game. J.K. Dobbins on a bad knee. He's running for 150 yards. And this is Greg Roman's. This is his beautiful product that he spent building for 2-3 years, built Lamar into an MVP. The Ravens struggled to run the ball in week 1 with Derrick Henry. We didn't bring Henry in to get 30 carries. Guys, this is the best rushing attack I think we're ever going to see against this run defense. Pierce is a loser. Ravens have to win in this spot, and everyone's afraid to lay this number. I'm not. I think the Ravens win it by double digits.
As a Ravens fan, I hate the pick, but I hate your reasonings a little more. Like the defensive front for the Raiders actually isn't very good outside of Max Crosby. So that's one thing.
They've got some names there.
Okay.
They've got some names.
Yeah.
I think they have some good players.
Oh, you don't know them?
No, they drafted the kid from. First of all, they brought.
No, I thought.
Because you don't know the names.
No, I actually.
You don't know the names.
Correct. I thought you were coming with the names.
Oh, he doesn't know the names anymore because when he's citing why it doesn't matter losing Christian Wilkins, meanwhile he's the top 3 PFF interior defender last year. Oh, maybe he will make an impact. Or the kid they draft from Texas Tech, who's a rookie last year, he's a little hurt, and this is his second year, a highly touted prospect. So they do have some names, and you just didn't know them. So,
okay.
Yeah, go
Second,
ahead. Yeah.
You're talking all about this rushing attack that we give Greg Roman so much credit for. That's why they ran the ball so well. That's why the Chargers ran the ball so well.
But that still exists in Baltimore.
Not really.
What do you mean not really? We're the number 1 rushing attack.
That's because we have the best running back quarterback in the world.
Okay, are they not playing on Sunday?
Well, he just left.
Are they not playing on Sunday?
He left the Chiefs game banged up because he had to run.
He's playing.
I know he's playing. I'm just saying maybe he couldn't practice because he was so banged up from running so much. Maybe against a Raiders team where he feels like he doesn't need to run as much, he won't.
Okay, and where's the ball going?
He has to throw it.
They can't hand it off to Derrick Henry?
Saying
you didn't bring Derrick Henry in?
These weren't designated runs that he ran on. He had to elude the pocket because our offensive line is so bad. And maybe he's scared to run, so he'll force some passes in, throw the ball away because it's the Raiders and not the Chiefs.
Is the Raiders' pass defense one of the best pass defenses?
No, I'm bullish on Lamar as a passer. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you're citing how the Chargers ran, but we know that's a Greg Roman thing. We don't have him anymore.
But we still have the number 1 rush offense in the world.
When Lamar's running freely.
All right, as an outside perspective who's not trying to talk Ravens for 45 minutes, just Lamar Jackson in the spot. We don't love him as a favorite. 7-17 against the spread when favored by more than 3 points. And you're right, I do have a soft spot for that Gardner Minshew outright win last season. It was one of my favorite plays. I liked the Colts to win. I liked him against the spread. And this is the exact same spot. Granted, completely different team. You're right. And I think you are right to be concerned with that Raiders defensive front against the Ravens. And I'm just not one to lay nearly 10 points, no matter who it is. You know, maybe we can talk in a couple weeks and the Panthers are 10-point dogs to someone and we can just lay it with whoever is playing the Panthers every week. I just don't love this number.
Shane Steichen and Antonio Pierce are just not the same person to me. And that's what makes this spot significantly different for me. I think it was super sharp to have them last year. And as a Ravens fan, I was keen to, this is the perfect letdown spot. My question back to you, Tim, because I know you're going to jump in, would be, why is the market have the Ravens at 9.5? Like, what is there to love? Is it a hatred for LV or is it a love for Baltimore? Because I don't feel like there's a love for Baltimore.
So this was 7.5 in the look ahead. Obviously now it's 9.5. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm sure that Baltimore is getting money. Now it's hard to tell though, because early in the season, the public is still interested in betting early in the week. They haven't been burned enough times. So early week money, it's really hard to tell if it's pro money or just money. But I'll look right now. Yeah. So the Ravens are getting 24% of bets and 78% of the money. So again, like I said, we don't really know if that totally is an indication of pro money or not. I would just say this. The reason I did not play this game is the Lamar big favorite spot. That's the only reason I didn't play it. And this number's just gotten a little out of control for me. But and again, and also I still feel like I don't have enough information on Las Vegas. This to me runs parallel to the pick that we gave, that Uppy gave about Tennessee and saying, okay, we can't overreact to week 1. Like, I think this is the same thing with Baltimore in that everyone knows that it was by a toenail that they, didn't come back in that game. And they're saying, okay, I'm going to get a jump here on this faulty final. And that's why that's gotten out of hand. To me, that's why. So I don't
Yeah,
want to play into that.
I'm cool with that. It's a pick that I had to do some thinking on before it kind of became the pick for me. It screamed, okay, that's a lot of points to be laying this early on in a season. I think that the market may show that we're ahead of the curve on Las Vegas. Someone in the NFL besides the Panthers and the Patriots is going to be really bad this year. And it could be the Broncos. I think that there's a really good chance it could be the Raiders. What do the Raiders do well?
Your point to Antonio Pierce, I know he was really solid against the spread last season, and I think that was when he was fighting for a job. Now that he has a job, he just tightened up so much. I saw it was one of the more cowardly punts since I think it was like 2016, 4th and 1 under 7 minutes inside the opponent and you punt the ball. I mean, he just tightened up. He's not as aggressive as he was. I would not want to back them. I just am terrified of laying nearly double digits with anyone.
Well, I'll point to this too. Not only did we talk about the Lamar as a favorite spot, but Lamar as a favorite of 7 or more after losing the week before, 0-4 against the spread. So they were trying to say that they're going to do the revenge, we're still here type spiel. And it's not the reason to bet it, I feel like.
To be clear, I'm not betting it because I think they need to. I'm stating the difference between this is a bounce back spot versus a letdown spot. That's the difference between week 2 last year, week 2 this year, just for clarity.
Yeah, and I was just going to say on top of that, because we didn't get that feeling as fans, and it sounds like the players didn't get that feeling. It was like, all right, tough week 1 opponent in Kansas City. This is the worst we'll play all season. It wasn't like we're so pissed. We're going to come back so hard after this awful loss. So maybe it's like if everyone, it's just assumed in the Ravens locker room that this is the worst we'll be all season. Maybe they do come out flat, and they actually need to be pissed off and play like they're pissed off. So I'm not using my veto, or either of you.
Jack, who's betting the Ravens or the Raiders in the spot? Who's betting the Raiders?
I think people who want to go off of trends and stats from the past, which is, I know people like to.
Yeah, this will be a pros versus Joe 1,000%. But you know what else will be is Panthers versus the Chargers, and that one I can actually see as well with the travel spot. 2 West Coast teams coming. All the pros are going to say Panthers so sharp, especially when it gets to 7 and they're going to lose by fucking 40 points again. And 7 won't
I will try and make my money elsewhere on the Carolina Panthers. I'll tell you that for a little while. I'll go someplace. I'll shop somewhere else.
Look, as I introduced the show, and Casey's the fish, you're the sharp, Alex is the degen. And I think if I had to describe my betting style, it's a combination of feel, statistics, analysis, eye test, which may not be a healthy thing. You need to essentially be betting on me to be good at compiling all that data and then taking my feel into it. But that is what this is for me. It's a fade of the fake sharps here who, they can't lay. You just could never lay 9.5 points. Well, the Panthers just lost by 40. The Chargers just beat the Raiders by 2 touchdowns. So I know they weren't, winning by 2 touchdowns the whole game. I think I power rate the Ravens as a top 3 team in the AFC. I power rate the Raiders as probably the 3rd worst team in the AFC. I think it's a fair spread. Casey, I will touch on one thing Casey said off the air. Do you fear this? Raiders, they could be down 17, score, go for 2, and they're covering the number. I don't ever really fear the back door. I think that's part of it, but just to fear it and to not bet a big number because there's that chance of someone coming in the back door, it never moves me off of a bet.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point because we only remember those backdoor covers, and how many times did it just never happen? It didn't matter at all. But that one time in 2012, I'm still keep like I'm still thinking
Yeah,
about
you
it.
still
and
have
I'm still
PTSD
scared
from
of
it.
it. Yeah.
All right, I
Yeah.
think we hashed it. Tim, you vetoing or are we moving on?
No, I'm going to accept. It's
All right.
very fair for the biggest favorite on the board to still be short. It's very possible. So I'm not going to use any vetoes in the first 2 weeks here. I have no leg to stand on. I gave Carolina. So I think I
Hey,
envision.
you do not eat that one all by yourself. Uppy and
Yeah,
I were
seriously.
like, fuck yeah, fuck
that was
yeah.
yeah, let's be very clear.
Yeah, I
'cause feel like
appreciate you as the leader trying to take that and being that locker room guy that's like, I'm gonna
Yeah,
take
I was
this one.
on the front
That's
lines.
an us thing.
But with that being said, it would have
No,
been Seahawks
no.
plus 6.5,
Okay,
and that
okay,
wouldn't have
fine.
hit either. And I would
Right.
rather just get completely blown out than the
Agreed.
Seahawks win by
Agreed.
6.
No,
having
Agreed.
6.5.
I agree. Take that one.
Because actually, you know what? I'm with you because I let you guys do the Panthers thing, and we would have lost on Seattle, but we still could have bet Seattle. We still could have bet Denver in the future. We could have debated over it. I'm glad everyone agrees we will not touch Carolina for a very long time, which was my agenda with that. So,
All right.
all right.
The
I
best
didn't,
part of the show, consensus
yeah,
time.
consensus. I didn't have a strong consensus last week, but I do want to start this week. I'm throwing out Giants plus 1.5. Classic overreaction spot. I'm very high on Jaden Daniels. I was very high on Cliff Kingsbury, helping him out as a rookie. Terry McLaurin thought he would have a huge season. Daniels throwing the ball vertically. That is, I think, the worst defense in the NFL. I think that they didn't throw a ball past the line of scrimmage. I don't think that that's going to change in week 2. I don't want to say I'm overreacting on the Commander side so much, but the big knock on Cliff was he did not motion. He did not move his best playmakers. He didn't get the ball in their hands. And while we would want him to do that, Terry McLaurin lined up as the X receiver on the left side in 61 of 64 offensive snaps. Cliff's probably not changing, and if he is, it ain't happening in week 2. On the complete opposite side of this coin, you've got Brian Dable, a coach who I think can scheme open players against this Commanders defense. I just like Daniel Jones may not be good, but the Commanders should not be favorites in an NFL football game right now. Rookie quarterback, it just blows my mind. So that's maybe it should have been
it's the worst. I think it honestly should have, and we would have probably had a lot more agreements because I like this a lot too. This is one that I was strongly considering. It's easily the worst secondary in the entire league. And now you have Emmanuel Forbes. He has a brace on his wrist as of today. So that's another corner that they might be down. Also, underdogs, when you have 2 winless teams in week 2, the underdog has gone 50, 25, and 3 against the spread. That's 67%. I think it makes sense when you have 2 bad teams, take the points. I don't want to overreact on the Giants. They were obviously really bad. I think the Vikings are halfway decent. I think this is a pretty good look here.
Jack, when you're picking just a team to win the game, it's
No,
what the hell happened?
No, I think you're missing my point. I am 100% convinced that the Giants are going to win this game straight up. I don't need the points. And that's what I was asking you. Are you convinced the Rams are going to win the game? I think that they should not be underdogs, but still, are they going to win the game? I think the Giants win this game.
Tim, it's on you because I'm also in on the Giants. I think DJ had an awful first game back from injury. I think he still has upside. I don't think he's good, but I still think he has upside with his rushing ability.
Oh God. So I would love if we could just replace Jack's pick with this.
Okay.
But
all right, how about this? If we find a consensus, I'm happy to replace it.
All right. So
But
let's go to a second consensus.
But we need to work towards that.
I say this with the caveat that I'm worried about the contest lines, right? And so 2 ones that I have circled, and I don't know if we're going to get dealt this in the contest, would be Cleveland plus 3.5 and Tampa Bay plus 7.5. Those are not totally on par with where the market is right now.
Okay, so for those at home, Tampa in Detroit, +7.5 is the number you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
So that game's a rematch. They played last year in a divisional round. Game was fairly close. You've got a Detroit team coming off a primetime win. You've got a Bucks team, tough to evaluate. Big season last year. They lose the head coach, or they lose the coordinator, rather, to be the head coach for our favorite team. Baker, is he good, or did he play the Commanders? So 7.5. I'm with you. I think that makes that intriguing. And then the other game he mentioned, Cleveland +3.5. Currently, market probably has it at 3. That was one I had highlighted. I couldn't believe if they get hooked. I'm with you. I think that's an auto fire.
Who is this?
It's Cleveland at Jacksonville. Now, this is a question.
He might just be really, really bad.
And you know what? I agree with you. I've been pushing that agenda for years. I actually don't think it matters. I think this Browns team is so good, and they just had an awful game against Dallas. Like, I think they just got behind. They got killed. Everyone's like, all right, Dallas is good. Cleveland sucks. I don't buy that for a second. So, Tim, I like that, but I don't think we get either of those numbers. Do you?
It doesn't really matter what I think. I'm just saying it's on like, if we get them, we get them.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get a $7, and I would strongly argue for that to be the consensus, and Jack to take the Giants.
Yeah,
that would be my
so to be honest, I would ride Cleveland before I would ride Tampa. I would rather be on the Ravens. I don't know if I would give up full control of my pick for the Bucks. I'd rather wait and see with them because I wasn't that high on them. I think people are overreacting to just shredding up the Commanders. I will say, read the early bets off my. This was when the lines came out. I jotted down 5 games. And
Giants, Vikings, Cleveland, Bucks, and Cardinals.
So Cleveland and Tampa were there, and Tampa at 6.5 was there. So if they get to 7.5, I'm with you. I don't see that happening.
My one thing with Cleveland, just curious people's thoughts. The Deshaun stuff, say what you want about him as a person, whatever it may be, kind of was over going in. It seemed relatively settled once the season started, at least. It seems like there may be some turmoil after the new article came out. Batonio tried to pick him up. He slapped his wrist away. I see, it seems like Cleveland almost tried to get behind Deshaun last year and move forward. Whereas this year, I feel like it could be a fuck Deshaun in the locker room type of.
You got a guy like Jameis, and he's in there fucking munching W's.
Eating doves.
Yeah, why wouldn't you want to support that guy over some scumbag?
Because we need a guy to munch covers. That's
I spent 35 of my fab on Jameis. I think he's going to be the starting quarterback soon. I think also, but weren't both of the Browns tackles injured last week? If they're not coming back and they're tackleless again, I'm completely out on the Browns.
No injury report yet as we record this on Wednesday.
Yeah, I know.
And I couldn't tell you for sure. To me, this is about as numbers get. The look ahead was Jacksonville -1, which is a statement that Cleveland is the better team. Okay? If Jacksonville's laying 1 at home. Then all of a sudden, this line shot up to 3.5 today. It's now around 3, I would say, but 3.5 today. You go all the way through 3. That to me is
it's a classic.
It's a lot, but I want to say Casey's overreacting, but I want to say that it's not an overreaction. So this is going to sound backwards. I think this is a perfect fade to your overreaction. They hate him. He's the worst. There was a clip. It's 1 game. I don't think he's lost it all yet. I think that's the overreaction. But on the other side, he was by far the worst quarterback, and maybe we actually aren't evaluating just how bad he is at his current form, right? Over time, we've said, okay, he's not the old Deshaun, but he's middling. Okay, maybe he's not great. The numbers in week 1, he's playing worse than Bryce Young. He was 0 for 15 throwing the ball down the field. He's turning the ball over. He is almost unplayable. He's unplayable.
Yeah, he was sacked 6 times. He didn't have a single pass over 15 yards. I don't know how we could potentially. I know this is a perfect buy low. It's just I would be more comfortable supporting the Panthers than the Browns offense. But
That's
the Browns
crazy.
have one of the best defenses in the NFL. You would hope that
Yeah.
that actually shows up on Sunday. And then this is a super close game against a Jags offense that's not, world beaters by any means. So I don't hate it, but I hate
The Cleveland defense is also the type that you could see Monday morning quarterback. Lawrence again with the 2 picks and the dumb throws and a pick 6. Like that's, I mean, no offense to your boy Tim, I'm as high as on him as possible, but that is a Lawrence-esque thing to do. He makes the incredible throw to Brian Thomas Jr. and then somehow they find a way to lose that game in Miami. I know ETN fumbled, but like they just stall. They just find these chunks of games where they don't put up points. And I agree with you, but I don't think the number's going to get there. So let's throw out a couple more just in case we don't see a 7.5 or a 3.5.
I took the Broncos. Mike Tomlin, he's 47% against the spread as a favorite, 65% as a dog. This is a classic spot.
Insane.
He always
insane.
loses these ones outright too. It's not like
Outright.
they even are competitive. We saw this exact same spot last year in Houston. They're a short favorite. Granted, CJ Stroud ended up being the best player, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But we didn't know that at the time. And this was the same. The Steelers were like -2 in Houston. This is a weird number. Houston's not that good. They were the worst team in the league last year. What do? The Steelers lose outright. I could see the exact same thing happen in Denver. This is also a spot we love betting Denver early in the season with the altitude. Players aren't quite in game shape. Nobody plays in preseason anymore. We're just doing these weak reps throughout the summer. It takes them a while to get fully into shape. I think this is a great look.
For everyone who is maybe just listening or can't see the cutoff of what Uppy's wearing, he's a Steelers fan. He knows this. He knew. I didn't know they could cover against Atlanta. He knew they were going to cover because that's just what Tomlin does. They don't even need to score a touchdown. But he knows the flip side of this, which is they lose this spot every time. I will say, you mentioned 3. I'm seeing 2.5. If it's 3, I'm in. If it's 2.5, I'm actually fine being out here.
100, totally agree. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
What?
Did we come to consensus, or are we on the Giants and Jack's back on the Ravens? Oh, Tim, you don't love the Giants, right?
No, I
he
do.
does.
I like
He
it.
does.
I like it. No,
Oh,
my
let's do Giants.
No, our contingency plan is this. If we see 3.5 Cleveland, then I'm sliding off the Ravens onto the Giants. Consensus Cleveland. I'm not willing to give up. I just don't think we're going to see 7.5 in the contest for Tampa. If we see it, we can have that conversation. I don't think we have another consensus. Does anyone else have any game they love? I'll throw out. I kind of love Minnesota against San Fran, but San Fran blows the doors off people, so I get if people don't love it. Anyone have one they love?
No, my 3 consensus were Cleveland, Bucks, Steelers. But I'm totally fine with the Giants plus 1.5. I think that's. I think you're bang on it with that. So I'm quietly rooting for Cleveland to be a 3.5, and we can do that whole slide off type thing. But
I'm with you. I'm with you. I just don't. Yeah, I don't see it. One last shout in hopes that I can kind of be the quarterback whisperer for guys I identify as like absolutely atrocious and awful. I kind of like Indy -3 in Green Bay. I don't think people are putting a number on where Malik Willis is. Now, he is a little Fieldsian where you can make the argument he just needs to do enough. He can run around with the ball. But Tennessee tried that last year with him, and they moved away from it very quickly. They were like, if we just run the ball with Henry, we've got him in the read option, we get a good defense, we can win games. Green Bay doesn't have a good defense. Like Philly, I know it's Philly, but they're middle of the pack last year. Green Bay's weapons, I think we love them when they've got an elite quarterback at the helm. I think they become extremely suppressed when they don't. Indy, the only tricky part is, do I trust Richardson to make the throws? He made the throw, but he's 46% completion percentage and missed like 3 touchdowns last week. So it scares me. But my Bryce Young for week 2 is Malik Willis. I think people are going to realize very quickly he's not a starting quarterback.
So
For me, I think the line agrees with you. I don't think that's a quarterback whisperer thing. I think it's appreciated how bad Malik Willis is, and I think that's why on the road Indy is favored by 3. I think it's the right number in an over/under that's 40.5. It's projected to be a low-scoring game. Not my favorite, as much as I agree how bad Malik Willis is.
So I came prepared to talk someone off of Indy, and the bet could totally
That's
win.
fine.
The bet could totally win, but here's why I have to be off of Indy. Last week, Richardson, right? 3 big plays: 57-yard touchdown, 54-yard touchdown, 57-yard catch, set up a touchdown, 54-yard touchdown, and then a 60-yard touchdown. If I told you that, and then told you that Richardson was 9 for 19 in the game, like that is the most absurd thing in the entire world. Indy was 7 yards per play in the game. You take away those 3 big plays, they were 3.3 yards per play. So, you could say you don't get to take away those plays, but
Down.
those are 3 ginormous plays. And you could, like, Malik Willis could be the worst quarterback to ever walk this earth. I don't have a big enough handle on what Indianapolis is yet.
Agreed.
I hear you. I think that the Green Bay defense did allow 75-yard touchdown last week. They did allow 3 touchdowns on the ground last week. You've got Richardson and Taylor. I'm with you, though. I'm not surprised. Like, Indy's not good enough, and Green Bay has the name and at home and the home field advantage that it feels like a lot. I'm just trying to get ahead of whoever they play next week. I think do you have a look ahead for week 3 in front of you, Tim, with Green Bay?
They are going to be 2.5-point dogs at Tennessee.
Oh no, the Titans again. We're just going to Titans every single week. There's certain teams you just find yourself
because I think if Tennessee covers, and I think what's going to happen to Green Bay with Willis, I think it's going to be Tennessee -5. Like, I think we're a week early on the Willis disaster. I actually would say
let's get in now on the Titans -2.5.
I don't think Malik Willis starts in Tennessee next week. I think Tannehill will be the starter.
I tend to agree.
That's how bad I think Willis is going.
I think that's.
And if LaFleur thinks that, though, he might just run Willis into the ground for one game.
100%.
All right. I would say that's our 5 picks. We got to go wait a few more hours or even 24 hours to see the final numbers. We will post this on all the Snapback Bets channels, so make sure you give us a follow on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok, and on Snapchat. Hit the subscribe button here. Anyone have any last words? Any favorite bet that's not a spread, a touchdown score? Anyone want to mention that I won like $30,000 over the weekend, hitting a bunch of props? Like, anyone want to talk about that stuff, or we're good to close?
I don't have an on the record.
Steelers Broncos under is a great one. Under 38.5. I think it's down to 37 now. I would still play that.
Oh, no shit, Uppy. Why do you think that? Is it because both offenses are unbelievable?
It's just a hunch.
Just a hunch.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, congrats, Jack. All you do is win. All I do is lose.
All right, fam. We'll see you for week 3. Best of luck in your betting. And let's get back on track, fellas.